Have you ever wondered why, even when you are genuinely trying to grow, there is still a voice inside you that resists, protects, argues, defends, demands recognition, or insists you are right? Why you feel irritation when someone corrects you, or a subtle tightening in your body when someone succeeds in an area where you feel insecure? Why pride rises, even when you know humility would serve you better? Or why part of you speaks calmly, rationally, and another part speaks with fear, defensiveness, or a strange urgency you can't explain? Most men assume that tension means something is wrong, that the ego is a problem to eliminate, a flaw to suppress, a childish part to outgrow. Modern self-help loves the phrase, kill the ego. It sounds strong, liberated, spiritual, even enlightened. But psychologically, it is misguided. A man who tries to kill his ego is a man trying to amputate his own nervous system, blind to the fact that the ego isn't an enemy trying to sabotage him, it is a messenger trying to protect him. The ego doesn't say, I want to destroy you. The ego says, I remember what hurt, I remember what kept you safe, and I cannot trust you yet to live without those defenses. Today, we are going to talk about the ego not as opposition, but as communication. We will explore why you feel threatened in moments that do not logically threaten you, why your body reacts before your mind understands, why defensiveness rises even when you don't want it to, and why humility without self-respect leads to collapse, not growth. We are here to understand the ego as the bridge between who you were and who you are capable of becoming, and why treating it with hostility only strengthens the parts of you that fear being abandoned. 1. What the ego actually is and what it isn't. The ego is not arrogance, vanity, pride, or insecurity, though it can wear those masks. The ego is the psychological structure that gives you identity. I am here, I exist, I matter, I have boundaries, I have meaning, I have agency. Without ego, you cannot say I. Without ego, you cannot differentiate yourself from others, cannot make choices, cannot build responsibility or autonomy. A man without ego is not enlightened. He is disoriented, ungrounded, defenseless, and easily manipulated. The mythology of ego destruction confuses spiritual aspiration with psychological health. In Jungian terms, the ego is the center of consciousness, not the center of the psyche, but the central organizer of waking life. It is necessary. It is the captain of the ship navigating the world of action and consequence. The problem is not the ego. The problem is when the ego believes it must survive by controlling everything, denying vulnerability, or maintaining illusion. The ego once protected you. It learned how to win approval, how to avoid humiliation, how to secure belonging. It developed pride when shame was unbearable. It developed certainty when doubt felt like danger. It developed control when chaos felt overwhelming. It learned to be strong where you once felt small. The virtues hidden inside the ego, courage, persistence, loyalty, identity, are not errors. They are early forms of self-respect. 2. How ego appears in ordinary life. You don't need a philosophical retreat to see the ego. You can see it at the breakfast table when irritation rises because someone misunderstands you. You can feel it in meetings when your chest tightens at someone else's success. You can sense it in arguments with your partner, where you would rather defend than listen. You feel it when apologizing feels like defeat. You notice it when feedback feels like threat. You witness it when someone does not praise your effort and resentment whispers, I deserved recognition. There are 3 clear markers. Disproportion, emotion far stronger than the situation. Personalization, neutral events interpreted as personal threat. Repetition, the same reaction to different people and contexts. No shame belongs here. You do not evolve by humiliating the ego. You evolve by noticing it without collapsing into it. Curiosity softens defensiveness. Self-attack strengthens it. When the ego reacts, the unconscious says, "Something in me is scared, protective, or unfinished. This is not failure, it is signal." 3. Origins and the boy who stayed. Ego defenses were formed long before you had language to explain them. As a boy, you experienced vulnerability without power. You needed acceptance, safety, approval, belonging. You learned quickly what made adults proud, what made them disappointed, what earned love, what triggered criticism. You decided, if I show anger, love is withdrawn. If I show sadness, I am ignored. If I ask for help, I am shamed. If I show fear, I am weak. If I express need, I become dependent and vulnerable to pain. So the ego stepped in and said, I will take over, I will protect him. And for years it did. It kept the boy safe. It built armor out of achievement, performance, strength, intellect, humor, stoicism, independence. But the ego never got the memo that you grew up. It still defends the boy because the boy inside never heard you say, I can protect us now. If, as you listen to this, something in you feels recognized, a part of you softens or resists or feels exposed but also relieved, then this work is meant for you. And before we go further, if this kind of depth helps you understand yourself, helps you see your own psychology more clearly, helps you move through life with honesty rather than self-conflict, consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. This topic, seeing the ego as messenger rather than enemy, is foundational for men who are ready to grow with dignity, not self-hatred. Your support helps this work reach others who need it. Thank you. Back to the boy. His fears did not vanish just because you became competent. He remains inside, carrying all the feelings you decided you weren't allowed to feel. When the ego flares, it is often the boy saying, I don't want to be humiliated again, or I don't want to be dismissed again. Recognizing this does not weaken you. It gives you access to the part of you that still believes survival depends on defense. 4. Contact without collapse. When the ego rises, irritation, defensiveness, pride, righteousness, the instinct is either to obey it or shame it. Neither works. Obeying it makes you reactive. Shaming it makes you divided. The mature move is to stay present with the reaction long enough to see the fear beneath it, not to collapse into it or act from it, but to notice its origin. When someone challenges your idea and your chest tightens, pause. That tension is older than the moment. When your partner asks for emotional presence and you feel the urge to withdraw, notice that reflex. When you feel threatened by another man's success, ask what story you are carrying. That comparison determines worth. The reaction is rarely about the present. It is a memory disguised as instinct. The ego says, be careful. This is where we once got hurt. When you witness this without judgment, you begin reclaiming adult agency rather than being run by childhood defenses. 5. Containment before expression. Maturity is not the suppression of ego, it is the containment of ego. Containment is the vessel where emotion can exist without spilling impulsively or being buried. Anger can be felt without aggression. Pride can be acknowledged without boasting. Fear can be recognized without retreat. Competitiveness can be owned without hostility. Egoic reactions are energy. raw, early, protective energy. When contained, they mature into boundaries, confidence, humility, dignity. Without containment, they erupt as defensiveness, withdrawal, self-righteousness, or pettiness. Containment is not silence, it is choice. It is the ability to say, I feel ego rising, and I can stay steady enough to respond, not react. 6. Consequences of avoidance versus integration. Men who suppress ego become fragile, passive, compliant, resentful. They mistake meekness for goodness. They lose agency. They collapse when challenged. They confuse humility with self-erasure. Men who inflate ego become rigid, insecure, domineering, trapped in performance. They must always be right, always strong, always respected. They cannot be wrong without falling apart. Both are forms of immaturity. The man who integrates ego becomes grounded. His confidence is not posturing, it is earned. His humility is not self-disrespect, it is clarity. He can admit fault without crumbling. He can lead without domination. He can receive criticism without bleeding identity. He can stand firm without aggression and bend without breaking. 7. Archetypal context. Ego and the king, warrior, magician, lover. Ego does not disappear when a man matures, it reorganizes. The warrior learns discipline rather than aggression. The lover learns devotion rather than dependency. The magician learns wisdom rather than manipulation. The king learns sovereignty rather than domination. When the ego is immature, it wants control and validation. When integrated, it wants alignment and responsibility. Humility is not shrinking. It is accurate self-knowledge. Authority is not superiority. It is self-governance. The scent of a mature ego is not pride, but quietness and steadiness. 8. Responsibility and witness. To develop this maturity, a man needs solitude, time where he can witness himself without distraction, and brotherhood, where he can be challenged without humiliation. Depth is not solitary asceticism. It is not performance in front of crowds. It is presence, steady presence with oneself and honest presence with others, not perfectly, reliably. Closing benediction. Your ego is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to protect the part of you that once needed armor to survive. Now, as a man, you do not need to attack it or obey it. You need to listen to it and lead it. You are capable of holding both the boy who feared and the adult who can choose. Strength is not the absence of ego. Strength is the integration of ego into maturity. Be the man who does not wage war against himself, but leads himself, not perfectly, reliably. Begin. And if this exploration of ego as messenger rather than enemy helped clarify something in you, helped you soften without collapsing, or understand your reactions with dignity instead of shame, subscribe to the channel and like this video. It supports the growth of this work and helps more men find depth in a world addicted to surface. Thank you.